Hi, it's Hans at happierman.com. Today's topic is how to get lucky. Well, I guess I will allude to the luck part about people getting together in that sense of luck. But this is mostly about just your general getting lucky in your life in whatever you're doing. I got the idea from Scott Adams. He's the guy who created the Dilbert cartoon, so he's very wealthy, very famous, and he's got all of these talks a couple times a day actually through this coronavirus, and he's one of these real good guys you wanna listen to, and he helps to kind of cut through some of this chatter that doesn't help you, trying to help you and me, and he's helped me with the way he brings his information. So one of his talks the other day was on how to get lucky, and he had some main points, and I have my notes here, just want to read them so his first point was to follow the positive energy, and that has mostly to do with moving and changing jobs or changing your circumstances. So if you're in a place that isn't positive for you, or maybe even negative, you might need to move. And I've talked at length about this, about my experience with changing jobs and moving, how that's always turns out for the better for me to get from a place where I'm at now, and I want to get to a better place with more energy. So he talked about it in terms of he grew up in this tiny little town in upstate New York, went to a nearby college, graduated when he was 22 from that little college in that upstate New York, and traded in his old beater car for a one-way train ticket to San Francisco, because he, at that time, I'm trying to think when this might have been for him. He's older than me, 60s. He might have been like in the 80s, probably in the 80s. And even then, San Francisco was like on the cutting edge, and it still is. It sounds like there's some weird things there, but nobody can argue that it's not a bustling metropolis filled with incredibly prosperous people, forward-thinking people, with all the Silicon Valley and and all of that, and just the sheer beauty of the area. I've been there on vacation, and it's incredible. The architecture of the Golden Gate and the iconicness, and people have been going to San Francisco as the place for hundreds of years, right? So it has a lot going for it, and for him, he said, well, this little town, it's just not cutting it for me. For one thing, New York, upstate, is going to always be cold in the winter and dreary. And he in his mind, let me go to someplace better. He didn't even have a job out there. I think he just went and got the job from there. So that's a location where you're at matters, because what you want to think about is where you're spending all your time living ought to be a place you want to be. And so I've had this in my whole life too, is I'm never quite where I want to be, and I think I finally moved to where I want to be last year. I'm hoping so far so good. With this COVID situation, that this isn't helping in my exploring my surroundings. I'm in like a mid-sized Midwestern college town, so it's very, very vibrant, very, very quirky, eclectic. It's liberal. It's liberal in the sense of you can do things. There's lots of bars, lots of nightlife, lots of people experimenting with things, that kind of thing. Now that kind of attitude isn't good everywhere. Politically, I find myself very hard to pin down. I can't say I'm one or the other. I can't say I'm a libertarian. I can't say I'm Democrat or Republican. Kind of look at what are the good things that people at the high levels are doing, and what are the good things that these various belief systems have, and let's use that, not worry about the party. But anyway, it's kind of how Scott is anyway. I think you'll find people with an open mind would think that way, and people with a very closed mind would not. So you might be in a place where you feel like you have an open mind and everybody around you does not. Well, in that case, you probably have to move. You probably have to live somewhere else where you don't face that continual knocking down of your beliefs. Okay? So you might have to move. You might have to change jobs. I've changed jobs quite a bit. Right now, last year I got this, what I would call my dream job, the job I've been grooming myself for my whole engineering career. It's really suited for me. I feel like I'm the person in our whole state who can do this the best. It's not bragging. It's just that's the feeling I have. I have the skill set and the experience level to do so. But I had to move. I had to change jobs many times, and when you change job, that's a lot of stress involved in changing jobs, and there's a lot of effort involved in the changing, especially as you go higher, as you get older and as you go higher up. So that's the first thing, is to try to get lucky, is to follow the positive energy. The next thing he mentions is networking. Networking is meeting people, getting to know them, and then getting to know more and more of them, and more importantly, having them know you. Having them know you may help you. It will open the doors. It'll give you opportunities. You never know, and so that's why you kind of want to be a decent person to everybody, and be friendly and nice and courteous, and not be, a jerk, not be, an ass to people. You want to be decent to people, because you never know what that will do for your career. The networking, because let's say you're looking for a job, and then the person knows somebody else who has that job opening, and he knows you enough to say, oh, I know who that might be, right? So it's the knowing, the levels of networking. So if you don't know that many people, you should make a point to figure out a way to get to know them. And then you want to get to know them in addition to online. You want to get to know them in person. That's why living in a good area that suits you is so important, because it's easier to meet people if you're in a little bit bigger place with more people to meet, and people with some of them of a like mind of you. If you're in a very small place and the few people who are there have a very different mind than you do, well then, you've got a very, very, very limited chances to succeed in that case. That's kind of why people start to gravitate to the bigger cities, because there's more opportunity, and you want to start to do things like find ways to meet more people, and be, let's say, more meetable in general, meaning get out and about and be friendly and agreeable and introduce yourself, and get over that fear of other people. The people are how you get what you want. It isn't necessarily you doing everything you're on yourself, you need those other people to help you. And that's not that they're doing it for you, but they're just helping you, right? They're helping you, and that's the networking idea. And I think there's something to be said for the networking online. It might be easier for you to converse and talk to people online as long as you do it right, and it isn't just random. It's more multiple interactions online with enough depth of conversation that you can start to understand the person a little bit, even if they're just typing things over the internet. That was networking. What was next? Skill stack. Scott talks about this all the time. You want to keep learning more things and getting good at those more things so you can do more things. And the way he describes it is if you notice the most successful people in the world, they have a very, very big skill stack, and their skill levels are very, very high, right? Like presidents of the United States have lots of skills at a very high level. That's how they got to be that level, right? That's how famous people you see on TV, very wealthy people, they can do a lot of things, skills, meaning they're good at it, being skilled, and they stack them, meaning they can do more than just one thing, right? The best people in the news, for example, aren't just looking good and reading what's on the page, right? They have the mind to understand all of this, right? I think you know what I mean. With some people on the news are very good with multiple things, understanding, questioning, probing, reading the situation, and some are not. Some don't have an open mind, and some do. So you want to develop your skills. Let's say you go to college to be a certain something. Well, and you get that job, and so you're young, right, in your 20s, and you do that certain something. What you want to do is other things besides that. So I'm a civil engineer. So when I started, there's a bunch of beef cattle out here. Love to see the beef cattle out grazing on the grass. Kind of a little bit of a hobby of mine. Anyway, I was designing just one little component of the infrastructure, and I started that, and I got pretty good at it. Got to be the go-to engineer, the hot jobs, the ones that were complicated. So, but that really wasn't good enough for me. And there were like a bunch of guys there, like in their 50s, nearing retirement, and they were still. That's what they started when out of college, and then they're still doing that 30, 40 years later. And that just wasn't for me, right? Because for one thing, the things I were designing was kind of boring, right? You kind of get good at it, and if you get that's why I like the complicated hot project, because those weren't boring like the normal run-of-the-mill stuff. So, as a young person, when you're ambitious and you want to do other things, so I was always trying to get promoted into something else, maybe transfer to a different section, and eventually I did that, got transferred into something else, a whole new part of the infrastructure world in civil, and learned a lot by that, getting in that promoted job. Learned a whole bunch of new things, and from all those new things I learned at that promotion, I was able to get another job in the private sector that was even more learning, with many different facets of all types of engineering, where I learned so many different things. And then from there, I was able to get to another job where I would learn all kinds of other different things. So it was always learning. And then that job was the job where I started to get even outside of the engineering, So I was learning one type of sewer design, then I went into what they call a stormwater management area, Then I went to a generalist where I was designing every facet of projects. And then I went to up until then I never did any public speaking. I did very little interactions with construction. So that job I was able to put on public talks, got good with speaking. I got much better at writing because there was this continuous effort on honing and winnowing and getting to the meat of the matter, because we were doing projects on an extremely high level, and people didn't have time to read long reports. They had to have just so I got good at summarizing things. So I would stack those skills. And then now I moved into something else. So all of those things, by doing all of those things, I was finally at the place where I'm the most qualified person to do this job, right? But I needed all those other things, right? I couldn't have done this job when I started out of college. So yeah, stack your skills, all the main ones, right? Computers, math, writing, speaking, blogging, writing articles, writing books, writing email. You got to be good at writing and math and have enough of a science understanding and being good with people, being agreeable. These are all skills, right? Scott talks a lot about negotiation and persuasion and all of that. So keep developing your skills. The next thing he talks about is experience. Well, like I said, when I was younger, just out of college, starting the job, you don't have a lot of experience, right? So you don't have a lot to offer. You only have that one skill, and you're not experienced enough to kind of see the whole picture. So this is kind of a thing with young people. They don't have enough experience to kind of get the big picture. Unless that young person started early building their skills. So you'll see this, young people who start early building their skills, by the time they're in their early 20s, they've already got a nice skill stack. So yes, it's possible that they do that. You'll see this, right? Kids in high school will get part-time jobs, and they'll get a bunch of different part-time jobs and do very, very well. And then all of a sudden they're 18 years old and they're the manager of the restaurant, right? Well, they got already an enormous skill. My kids they started working when they were 16, and they built an enormous skill stack in their own, only in their early 20s. They've already done all these different things. So they're like these kids that are in their 20s that can do all these things. My daughter's 21, and she could easily manage any chain restaurant, right? She could easily do that. Now, I don't think she wants to do that, but like she and I have talked about it, that's something she could do if she wanted, right? And my son has got his own cleaning business, so he cleans. He's going to college full-time, and he's got this cleaning business, so he's already has this business experience. They've already stacked their skills. So if you're a young person, man, the earlier you start getting good at things, the better. The earlier. So you're young, you might certainly getting really good at the video games. That's a skill that may help you, but in addition to that, you want to do other things. Think about it in terms of a stack. I want to be good at multiple things. You, as the video gamer guy, don't want to be the best video gamer. You want to do some other things, right? In addition to that. So, think of those terms. And time, right? The time. So it doesn't always take a ton of time to get the experience. When I started that first engineering job, within less than a year, I was the go-to engineer, the one that my managers knew, or they can depend on me to get something done for them quickly and reliably and accurately, because I worked hard and I applied myself. Experience doesn't always mean time. It means applying yourself to know what you're doing. But sometimes that comes with time. So both. Other thing Scott talks about, try 10 things. The idea of failing forward. So you can't just get stuck in yourself and just do this thing, and then if you're not happy with this thing, you've got to try more. Keep trying. So I've got I think six or eight different major jobs that I've tried, and I'm finally at this one where I think this is the one. I've had multiple websites and book ideas and multiple articles, and I think A Happier Man is the one. So like my full-time job is as a civil engineer, and then my part-time is creating stuff for my website, ahappierman.com, including these videos, my book, and I hope you like it. I think for men like me who've lived a subpar life, the kind of stuff I talk about will really help you up your life. Other things I've tried, the moving, the vacation, you gotta think about it. You can't just do one thing and expect it to turn out for the best. You might have to have multiple failures, and I think Scott goes quite a bit into that in his book. How to fail at most everything and still have success. I can't remember the name of the book, but it's like orange colored. You'll see it right away when you go to Google Scott Adams. And I've read the book, and it's very good, and it will help you. It'll help you kind of clarify how you might move forward with your life. So 10 things. And then the other thing, try some long shots. Things like he talks in terms of investments or business opportunities. I've tried some long shots with that, and to this point I haven't had the success. But as I talked about earlier, how to get lucky with the long shots. Yeah, I've gotten lucky with long shot ladies who were just, let's say, incredibly gorgeous and beautiful, and that the kind of women that when you spend time with them, you feel blessed to have done so. So, at the time in my life where I needed that, I did that, and it feels very good to have, let's say, won the moment, okay? So, you don't want to sell yourself short that you can't do incredible things and have incredible experiences, because you can, if you keep this idea of trying some long shots. And I think the last thing he talked about in the idea of how to get lucky is the affirmations. And he goes into this at length in the book and elsewhere about writing down 15 times a day your desired outcome. And that's a form of affirmation where you constantly write it down and talk about it and think about it. And some people, or it could be it's a form of a prayer. So you will find that religious people who are good at praying and fully believe it and fully embrace it and fully make use of the constant praying for what they truly want in their life, get it? That's kind of how it goes. So yeah, the affirmations, that really, really helps you. So that's why I'm always talking about the writing and kind of writing and rewriting what you want. Don't just write things down once. You write them down often enough and frequently enough, and Scott talks in terms of 15 times a day, every day, right? So that's pretty often. But that may, as he says, it doesn't cost you anything to do so, and the results can, the way he describes it, and he's a very persuasive, very smart, wise guy you love to listen to, the results can change your life. So, all for now.